brothers and sisters of the Warhammer universe. Welcome back to Tortuga's Grim Rosaline. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to show you how I paint a Grimdark Black Legion Haarken Worldclaimer. And this will be my first build that I'll be using oil washes over regular. It's getting closer and closer to Halloween, so let's get our chaos on. So here's a list of all the paints that we'll be using on this build. We're going to start off with Citadel's Macragge Blue and Thinner. So we're going to start off with the base, and we are going to paint a very unfortunate Ultramarine who has fallen. And we're going to coat all of his armor plates with the Macragge Blue. Next up is Citadel's Caligar Blue with Thinner. We're going to use this to highlight each of the armor plates on our fallen Ultramarine. Next up is Citadel's Leadbelcher with Thinner. So we're going to use the Leadbelcher to paint the buckle on the belt, the tubing around the helmet, and all of the plate damage and scuffs done to the Marine's armor. Next, we're going to use Citadel's Liberator Gold with Thinner. So we're going to be using the Liberator Gold to paint the trim around the shoulder pads, the emblem on the chest, and the medallion on the buckle. Next, we're going to use Vallejo's Model Color White and Citadel's Blood Angels Red. We're going to use the white to carefully paint the eye lenses on the helmet. And once that dries, we're going to go over it with the Blood Angels Red. Now, normally I would say that you go over the eyes onto the helmet for a glowing effect, but seeing he is unalived, we're not going to do that. And we're going to stay carefully into the lenses. Next is Citadel's Blood for the Blood God. Let's be honest, you can't have a fallen Space Marine on a Grimdark build without a whole lot of blood. And we're going to give it to you. We're going to start off and we're going to do a pooling around the body on the ground of the Blood for Blood God, and then we're going to work into the impaled hole on the chest and have that draining down to the ground. Up next is Vallejo's Game Air Bonewhite. We are now finally on to painting the Haarken Worldclaimer. We're going to use the Bonewhite to paint all of the bones on the chest piece, the skulls hanging off the hip, and the back end of the power claw where the bones are. We will also be painting all of the skulls on the jump pack, as well as the bone on the shoulder pad. I like using this Game Air Bonewhite because we don't have to thin it down and it doesn't come out chalky, but we still always have to do 2 coats to make this fully look its best. Up next, we'll be using Vallejo's Model Color Red and Thinner. We'll be using the Vallejo Red to paint the tabard, the handle on the spear, and the cloth hanging off of the jump pack. And always remember, we'll be using 2 thin coats to go over this, so the first coat might come off a little blotchy, the second coat will always come in nice. Up next is going to be Citadel's Retributor Armor and Thinner. Were you worried that I wasn't going to get to this part? Well, don't worry anymore. It's now everybody's favorite time or dreaded time. It is Chaos Trim time. We're going to be painting all the trim on the armor, around the spear, onto the shoulder pads, and the mask covering the face, as well as on the jump pack itself. And again, don't worry if the first coat doesn't come out as nice as what we're hoping for. That's why we're going to do that second thin coat. Up next is Citadel's Leadbelcher with Thinner. So we're going to be using the Leadbelcher to paint all the metallics on the armor, on the jump pack, as well as the mask, including the power claws, the spear, and the chains off of the hips. And because Leadbelcher is so awesome, we're only going to have to do 1 coat. I'm just kidding. We're always going to do 2 thin coats. Up next is Citadel's Dark Reaper with Thinner. So we're going to be using the Dark Reaper to paint all of the joints and the midsections in between all the armor plates on the body. We're also going to use this to paint all of the pipes and tubing on the jump pack and on the mask. Taking a quick look, the body of our Haarken Worldclaimer is looking pretty nice so far. Up next is Citadel's Baal Red. We're going to use this to paint the eye lenses of the mask, and we're going to slightly go over onto the mask to give it a glowing effect. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Mahogany. We're going to do 2 thin coats of this mahogany brown, and we're going to paint this on the belt, as well as the handles on the jump pack for the spears. And again, seeing that this is a Model Air, we don't have to thin it, but we're definitely going to need to do 2 thin coats. The first coat might come off a little splotchy and not as bright as what we want, and we'll do that second coat to make it all look nice. Up next is going to be Winsor & Newton's Burnt Sienna and Lamp Black. And here is me dipping my toe into the world of oil paint washes. What I did here is I made a version of an Argax Earthshade using 2:1 of the Burnt Sierra to the Lamp Black, and heavily with mineral spirits until it came out into a nice light wash. We're going to use this all over all of the gold trim areas, the black armor, any bone areas, as well as the skulls. And looking through this, you can already see that it's covering nicely and going into all the nooks and crannies, even better than what a normal wash would do. One of the great things with oil paints is if you overdo it, you can take a Q-tip with mineral spirits and touch up until you get it to look how you want it. Up next is Citadel's Yriel Yellow, Fuegan Orange, and Medium Thinner. We are going to paint in both mouth sections on each of the knee pads, starting off with Yriel Yellow. Once that dries, we're going to go over that with a Fuegan Orange, and this is going to make a nice glowing yellowish orange effect on each of these areas. Up next is Citadel's Stormvermin Fur with Thinner. We're going to use the Stormvermin Fur to edge highlight certain areas of the black armor. This helps make shapes on black stand out a little bit more where there isn't another color to offset. And now with all the main colors done, we've put our Haarken Worldclaimer together, and he looks amazing. It's time now for shading and highlighting. Up next is Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black. So this is my oil paint formula for Nuln Black, and it's going to be Lamp Black with mineral spirits, and I will be using this to touch up and darken all of the metallic areas. Up next is Winsor & Newton's Chrome Yellow and Cadmium Orange. So here's how I make my oil paints into a wash. I take 1 part of the orange, 1 part yellow, mix it into a metal tin with mineral spirits. Now you can use ceramic, glass, or metallic for your containers. They say not to use plastic. I don't know why, but I don't question it. I take the wash and I start to paint into the insignia on the spearhead. And you can see here with me just lightly touching, the oils go right into the crevice and fill it up nicely. And any oils that run outside of the insignia, you can take a clean brush and wipe right off. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome. We'll be using the chrome to highlight the edges of the talons as well as the spear tips. And of course, we'll be using this to highlight any of the metallic areas that the light touches. Up next, we're going to combine the chrome with Citadel's Retributor armor and thinner. With this mixture, we're going to be doing a highlighting to all of the gold areas on the armor, jump pack, and mask. So basically anywhere the light would touch at an angle is where we're going to start putting this. And with all of the shading and highlighting done, our Haarken Worldclaimer is looking amazing. But it's now time for my favorite. It's time for the Grimdark. We're going to use Villainy Inc.'s Sector Rust. We'll be putting this all over the black armor and metallic areas, and you can apply as many coats as you want to make this as rusty as you would like. And don't worry about going over, because we can always take a Q-tip with mineral spirits and dab it off to where we like it. Up next is Villainy Inc.'s Decay of Death. We're going to apply this lightly to the skin of the head, and we can slowly put in coats as it dries until it gives a nice sickly effect. Up next is going to be Citadel's Blood for the Blood God. We're going to use this on the talons of the power claw, up the back of the hand to the shoulder pad, on the spear tip, being careful not to overdo it on the insignia, and all of the skulls on the jump pack and off the hip. And there you have it, a Grimdark Black Legion Haarken Worldclaimer, looking like he just leapt out of your nightmares to claim your souls. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you might have learned something new that you can add to some of your builds. And like I always say, Grim for the Grim Rosaline.